approval of the agenda, that the agenda for April 28th, 2025 meeting be approved as amended and attached to form part of the said minutes with the addition of item 9.2.8, community airport program funding. And I would like to switch the RCMP report to be item 5 and business arising to be item 6. We're just going to flip those around today. So who wants that one? Councillor Neudorf. All those in favor? It's carried. Declaration of conflict of interest. Do we have any today?
5.1.
5.1
9.2.7.
and 9.2.7 for less. Okay, anybody else? Okay, if you see that you missed it, just let us know. That the minutes of the April 7th, 2025 regular meeting of council be approved as presented. Councillor Vic. Has everybody had a chance to review those minutes? Do you see any errors or anything there? Okay, all those in favor? It's carried. That the RCMP report for the fiscal year of April 1st, 2024 to March 31st, 2025 be received and filed. Well, everybody wanted that one. Councillor Neudorf gets it. And with that, pass it off. Welcome, Kyle.
Thank you for having me again. So last one I should have given to you guys was the numbers for the entire year or just the town of Nipawin. Which I emailed, should have emailed out there last week, which had a total for the entire files, just strictly for the town that Nipawin that year, 3,791 files. In to kind of gauge of where that was in the area, our total number of files taken for the entire Nipawin-Smeaton area was 5,148 files for the whole fiscal year. So it's about 2/3 of our workload, roughly, maybe a little bit better. Compared to from last year, total files from last year in the town of Nipawin were 3,537 files, so a difference of about 254 files, which isn't that big of a jump depending on kind of what's going on and what has. So, you know, I'll give a perfect example. We've had a traffic member working here quite a bit lately. That could see an influx of traffic tickets, which is an influx of files. Since I've got here, the guys have really taken ownership of doing the proactive curfew checks, like we talked about earlier when I first got here, which because of those gets an increase of files because we are breaching more people because we're going after more people. So just because there's more files being generated doesn't mean that there's an increase in crime. Say for instance, I'll give you for example is for the entire area there was 5,148 files generated this year. Last year there was 5,139 files, so a difference of 9 files for the entire area. So pretty much the same numbers for the entire area. So sometimes, you know, you can use stats for whatever you want. Sometimes people think, oh, there's more files means that there's more crime. That's not always the case. If there's lots of proactive stuff out there, we're gonna find stuff, and that's what you want to see. So, you know, there's not that big jump. I could get, if you guys were interested, I could get our diecast people, which is our division. They go through all the stats and make all the nice charts and everything. They're the numbers people to kind of give a breakdown of exactly, you know, persons crimes, you know, property crimes, that kind of stuff for our files. So if you guys are interested, take time, see how busy they are. But there are people in the division that can do. So I can definitely look into that if you guys are interested in something like that.
I think I'd be interested in it. It gives us anything we can have in terms of information,
right?
You know, to be able to, when people ask us questions,
okay,
makes it a little easier. So if it's possible.
Yep. No, I don't want to know the timeline of it, but I can definitely ask, and at least they'll eventually do it. It's just depending on how long it'll take them. So, On a side note, all our members here have been outfitted with body worn cameras. I don't know if anybody has seen them around town, but they will square on their chest with a blinking green. So all interactions we have with the general public, like this type of thing, we don't record, but any files, anything with the general public, that we deal with, the guys will be recording those events. So all of the members of Nipmuc meet and have them and are trained to use them now. So. As far as their staffing is status quo. I'm losing one member for promotion out of Smeaton, but it looks like I have a backfill. Timeline to get them back is undetermined yet, but other than that, we're still sitting at full strength.
It's good news. All right, do we have any questions or comments?
Well, that was my question, but you answered it, so.
Oh, which is that? Which one?
Staffing.
Staffing, yeah.
Yeah.
I have already started working on our summer schedule, and I emailed you about the 100 years and the fair, which kind of go streamlined together. I've already made sure that we were going to have adequate resources for that whole timeline of about 6 days, I think is what it is. 3 days for the 100 years and then 3 days. We're fighting with Craven. We're working with Craven is at the same time, so resources are pretty spread. Lots go there. So, but it was able to secure, I believe, adequate resources for that entire 6 days.
Yeah, my question was answered. I was gonna ask about how we compared to last year, so.
Yeah, it's pretty status quo. It's without diving deep into the exact numbers and what it is. The trend across the province, I believe, is violent crime has been trending a little bit up in certain areas and then trending down in a little bit. So depends on where you are in the province. I know the west side has been having a little bit of problems. I think we're status quo pretty much around here for what's been going on. Having said that, we are getting into our busy time. It's getting warmer. We're going to see a lot more movement. We're going to see a lot more people out there, and the guys are aware of that and are going to be stepping up patrols to try and alleviate some of the problems.
Right. Any other questions, comments?
No, just one quick comment. We just wrapped the SUMA convention 2 weeks ago, and Nipmuc's pretty fortunate that we have a full detachment, that there's a lot of communities out there that are short, and just thank you for that.
Very, very much so. We are one of the lucky ones across the province. Having said that, it's a double-edged sword sometimes, being fully staffed. Sometimes you have to send to help out places that aren't fully staffed. For instance, there's some detachments around the province that have upwards of only 5 members out of 20. So, and they're a lot busier than we are here. So, we're fully staffed, but we end up, providing sometimes resources to other parts of the province to assist. So, there's goods and bads of being fully staffed. So.
Yeah.
But we'll always make sure that we have our adequately resourced here before we're sending out things.
Well, I'll just end again. Thanks again for the work you guys are doing.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. And again, if any questions, anything like that, feel free to phone me, email me, whatever you need.
Will do.
Excellent. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
All right. Everybody's heard the report. All those in favor? It's carried. Great. The council hereby accepts the offer from a local developer to purchase a parcel of no more than 41 acres for the price of $60,000 with a land title to transfer upon finalization of the purchasing agreement to be created by August 1st, 2025 and approved by council. And that the purchase is contingent upon an agreement for servicing and the creation of a site plan by May 1st, 2026, with the development to commence concurrently upon municipal approval of the servicing agreement and site plan. And that should the stipulated terms and timeline not be met, ownership of the land will revert to the town with 20% of the purchase funds retained by the town to cover costs incurred with no additional expense to the town. And that the purchasing agreement will include a subdivision agreement with boundary alterations to the provided map to ensure proper alignment, and that all development requirements are met, and that there will be no loss of current roadways or use of existing infrastructure required to facilitate the development. Counselor Stewart. All right, so this is what came to our last meeting and we tabled it, and it's back again for review. This time Derek is here, so I will maybe let you speak to this a little bit. And
Thank you. We did adjust the map, as you guys can see on the reports, to fit on, so it doesn't affect our infrastructure. It reduces the amount to about 50 acres or 30 acres. Sorry,
just under 40.
just under 40 acres. Sorry, I'm bad at math in my head. I guess the whole thing with it is they made an offer. This whole development is like a $3 to $5 million investment in our community, and we still will control anything that gets put in there through planning, development, and legislation. I don't believe that the price is ridiculously low by any stretch of the imagination. It's comparable to North End properties that we have that are $1,000 an acre. This is $1,400 to $1,500 an acre with the adjustments of the land, and then with the investment of 3 to 5 million for the infrastructure. I think it pretty well speaks for itself in investment in the community.
Thank you, Derek. Do we have some questions? Joyce?
I have a big question after reading this. Here, the objective A or B was that we would maintain all the usage of the riverbank for community recreation, basically. And I do get concerned about the riverbank being sold, even though you may have stipulations. You'll have a fight down the road if they want to block off an alley or a way for the public to use. For instance, one of the things I noted when I went to Manitoba, to go to any of the lakes there, you couldn't get to the water because of all the residential houses there. So in a sense, you're taking away from the public to have the ability to use the right of way to the river, to the water and recreation. And that, I don't think that's part of our philosophy. That's the exception by nature. I don't think it works. That's my thoughts. I'm not against the development, but I think it needs to be redrawn.
Well, the one thing I know for sure, if they don't get a piece of the riverbank, that they probably will not invest in it, because I do know in the future there is a plan to have a boat launch or a marina posted in there as part of their, just in conversation with them, not as part of anything, but and it could be 15 years down the road or 20 years, I don't know exactly, but I know that was conversation. As far as the recreation, we still would have complete control over the usage, along with the geotechnics won't allow you to develop right along the riverbank for the same reasons that the old bridge is closed down from sloughing and wear and everything else. So I do believe that we are still in control of the green spaces and anything that would get put in there.
You're not in control unless you have ownership.
Stacy?
I thought when we sent this back that we clearly said that we didn't want to get rid of any of the riverbank. But that was gonna be ours for the town. Maybe I didn't hear that properly.
There was some discussion around that. I think it was a little bit both ways. But that was one of the options for sure, was to remove that. I think hearing the reason it was left in, just like Derek would have brought up, is potential for a boat launch and marina so that it would actually improve access to the river.
You can actually do that without them owning it. Give them the right. I mean, the Tobin Lake has been doing it for years. The resort. They don't own that boat launch. They put it in. And it's used by everybody.
Believe they do own the boat launch. I think it's private. That's why they sell passes to.
No,
Launch
it's
a boat.
not
That's the-
private.
That's facility pass, that's for the boat launch, that's for the hall, that's for. It's playground.
Okay. Go ahead, Kylie.
My only thing, I'm not opposed to development and growth and stuff, I agree with what Joyce said. But my other thing is, I feel that just looking at this offer from one potential investor that brought it to us when this wasn't made public or out for tender could backlash on us. I think that this is a really hot piece of property that more than one potential investor would be interested in. If we're even gonna consider selling it, I think that it should have been made, like, put up for tender and not just private offer.
I think the idea behind this is they came to us, if we waited and only did things based on tender, we wouldn't necessarily move a lot of property, and if it was such a hot piece of property, it would have sold a long time ago.
I don't know if people knew that it was even an option or owned by the town.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeff didn't have any idea, or anything, anyone knew that idea.
You know where the spot, the road, the Rotary Park, like that, all of a
So that
sudden,
was the other two.
yeah,
So,
nobody
yeah,
knew it was for sale, and then all of a sudden,
I
that was,
can guarantee that'll be our ears will burn and everything else.
I just think it could be backlash.
What a big time.
Which Rotary Park are you talking about?
oh, we're.
Well, Moss.
Yeah, and that, to tell you the truth, that's when I got interested in council. I just happened to come to that meeting.
Yes, boom, all of a sudden,
Yes, $20,000.
So we turn that up.
$5.
Yeah, isn't that what they said? So do we have any other questions?
Well, I find it really hard that we spent $50,000 on this secret study here from a while ago. That it's not being taken into account in this drawing at all. And when we had that meeting the other day, he said, this takes precedence over our bylaws.
Yep.
So
Those teeth.
it is a document that holds some weight and it's not being used. Why did we spend $50,000 and all the time to develop it?
Jeff?
This is way too much land, like with just a pile of questions right around it. Yes, we discussed the riverbank about keeping control of it. They don't have it, so what would their idea be? Setting up a private marina?
I don't
Mhm.
know if it would be private. Like I said, it
Can
was
you do
just a
private
really
one?
discussion as a thought of what they could put in there, just with the location of it.
Just future potential.
Yeah.
There is the ability to do private arenas. I mean, you got Tobin Lake Leisure for
Yeah.
one, and then Serenity Bay is another.
Yeah.
So as soon as you do that, again, you're taking away the access from the people. And is that the right thing to do?
The second side of that is anybody using this land right now? There's no access on this land. It's
Yeah. Yeah,
We
nobody's
don't know
really-
that.
Not very many people accessing the river down there.
maybe
Well, you can't access it because the road's blocked off. One thing.
You used to be able to access that to go blueberry picking or Saskatoon picking. So it has been eliminated for that.
Who owns the riverbank?
Crown. For the most
Do we
part,
own it
there's
for the water?
no, nobody ever does.
Sounds power.
South Power, so I think they should get the table as well. This is, we're talking about a residential development.
Mhm.
Can you, can you put a boat launch in a residential
Probably.
area?
Well, that's SARM, you'll be dealing with
So
SARM.
who owns the riverbank? Like it's,
Power doesn't own the riverbank either, they have.
No, Crown does.
Yeah,
You have to go 50 feet past the river, and that's not 50 feet up. That's 50 feet out, and then it's might start.
so we got no say in riverbank.
I think,
No.
We can
Jeff or
control
Derek
that.
could probably answer the question here.
So we did reach out to the Water Security Agency and SaskPower, Jeff called them both. And, you can put a boat launch on there. There is geotechnics and everything, you have to follow, there's a whole bunch of environmental guidelines that you have to follow to get there. But it is a feasible thing to be able to do it. The cost was unknown.
There is a boat launch somewhere along there.
Brett Kane
Where?
have one.
Oh, okay, is that private or public? Because I've seen it from the river, so
Yeah.
I was surprised to see it.
Well, you can get what you want, you need a shoreline alteration permit, and you have to go through the DFO, and you have to go through CERN, or whatever it's called now. It can be done.
Mhm.
And that would just fall on, if a developer chose to do that, they could do it.
Yeah.
So,
Or if the town decided to do that, they can do it. And
I don't know if we want to build a boat launch.
you hire somebody to do that work. Look, it's no different than the regional park. What do? They hire, you have a board.
Also be interested in writing redrawing the border, doing a proposal back to them.
Yeah, it's something there, Jeff?
Yeah, I just think this is vague. Like this, it's so vague. Like here's a big chunk of land we want you to sell us for this, right? And we don't have any idea what the plan is. There's no. I know that that's all to be coming, and if not, then we get the land back and it's all set out there. But
So I guess I'll go with the reasoning I brought it the way I brought it is because he brought us an offer. And every single time that we bring it back to here, it gets tabled and it's time, right? If you guys have no interest in the $60,000, at least then I could get a counter offer to take back to them to get it to where we get to a working agreement. But until we have any sort of working agreement, there's a lot of time involved in everything that you do. So it's trying to get it going because it is such a large investment to build it. That was the reasoning behind where it sits, and it's just that area based on no infrastructure and everything. It's just to try and get it rolling because of the amount of dollars that are required to actually make this happen.
With the 40 acres and 60,000, I think it's getting closer to the dollar amount. But I think it's the outline of it that is not welcomed more so than the money from me. Because about $1,500 is probably reasonable per acre. Because some of those acres you wouldn't be able to use. But I think a good planning, the tip by the old hospital where it's in there, that could be a parking area so that people can walk along the river, not necessarily drive. And then also have the ability to go to the boat launch. But then you would have a little park, they'd walk, and then they go for a picnic or a walk down the.
And that would be all part of the development agreement.
Again,
That's
ownership
much
is
for
the issue.
But if we
The
require.
ownership is the issue. You have no control over what happens there unless you own the land.
And why is that?
Just take a look at the duplex, doctor's duplex, same thing. We own the building, don't own the land. We have an issue.
But this is the purchase is contingent upon the agreements for servicing and creation. So we're not giving up title or anything until we actually have more in place.
Yeah.
But
Simply
it's
put,
part of the agreement.
it's contingent upon that. And no matter what, that's gonna have to go through here. If I'm correct, right? It'll have to go through
Yeah.
council no matter what. So
It all has to come back
So
here.
the question is simple, right? Are we interested in a development in this area? And if we are, then we can go through servicing and contingents, and then all the purchase will be contingents upon that, right?
And we
So
can-
all we're doing is opening ourselves up to the possibility today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
we
you're
could-
saying in the motion, it says under 41 acres,
No more than 41 acres.
no more than
Yeah,
41.
it could be less. Once the
Could be.
negotiation starts,
Mhm.
we can negotiate
The boundaries.
the boundaries. So this is just opening us up to start this conversation.
I think that map throws a lot of people off. I know it does me. When I see that line right to the riverbank, nothing about that feels good, right? I just don't like it. I think we should control the riverbank based on that.
And the opening, the entry.
I believe regardless of who owns the riverbank, we should own whatever is next to the riverbank
Mhm.
setback.
We can send it out.
Mhm.
And
Yeah. Sorry, I was just, Derek's kind of,
And that would be all things, that's where the boundary alteration part of it come in, right? Because we can't, Jeff and myself can survey a thing to go out, so the parcel of land has to be the parcel of land. Right, and then the boundary alteration would be part of the purchasing agreement that would go with it and would have to come back through the developer and through council to be approved. So that there's still, like, it's nowhere near done, it's just giving us a place to start doing the work to try and get it done.
Yeah.
So this motion is really too soon.
So I was, yeah.
well, this land's not even for sale, so we don't even know that the council even has an appetite of even selling this land. You bring up a very valid point. There could be a lot of other people who would be interested in this land
I
that,
just think it could cause a lot of issues, like,
Mhm.
just as soon as this gets out, there'd be a lot of people that would say, if I knew that was an option to buy from the town, I would have offered more, or I would have, whatever, right, like this, I just feel that it should, now that it's been presented, that if it's something the town wanted to do, it should go up for tender.
And we should be
Before we
doing our
make-
homework.
Yeah, before we
I
make.
guess-
or just even just go up for
sometimes the
sale.
early bird
Yeah.
gets the
Doesn't
worm
have-
though too.
Doesn't have to go up for, doesn't have to go up for tender. It can just go up for sale.
Mhm,
Okay.
So
Now it's listed.
mhm.
is every piece of land that is for sale in NIP one for sale?
No.
Got a for sale sign on it.
No, not all of it.
Because when I looked through some stuff here, I had no idea that these things were even for
That's
sale.
my problem.
This I thought was all gonna be green space forever,
Mhm.
but I thought that before too, so. Well, will be the pearl and the pine, I guess, not pines.
No, that's because of these, lack of a better word, shenanigans have been passed. Been done before. And I think we as a council are told the community that there's gonna be transparency, like everybody's gonna know what's going on. This looks sneaky to me. And in non-council language, this just looks sneaky and I don't like it. It should be made public, like everybody should be made aware of it.
It's public right now.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of is. We've got well, I suppose the drawings are online too, but the,
It's public now that it's,
I guess my
Mhm.
question
Council.
is if I would've walked in and said, I'm looking for land. Would that have been brought to my attention?
it's not on the map with land for sale.
So this is where I'm going with this. And the other parcels of land, everything that is for sale in NIP one to me. Person should walk in, I'm looking for land, okay, here's what we have to offer you, here's the map. Not, you gotta hunt and dig for it, it should be presented.
Right.
So that's kinda, that was the Lyle model. Or the 49 North 49 development. Where. That's the big talk, this will be way bigger.
Mhm.
Like I said, I'm not opposed to developing, but I don't wanna really get rid of that riverbank too badly, and then. I don't think it's being carried out properly, and I don't know if I'm going out of bounds by saying that or not, so I don't know.
Speak to it. When somebody comes in and they ask what property you have, the town has available, we'll present them with our available properties that are listed. And then they might perhaps say, what about this piece of land here? And then when they make an offer on that piece of land, it's up to us to bring it to council if they've made an offer on a piece of land.
Here's the map and it's not.
And that's the fair thing to do. That's
Yes.
not knocking that. But
Yeah.
we should, as a town, we should know what the property is, and we should know what the development part of it is. What can we do? What should we be doing? How does it fit in with our OCP plan and our bylaws? We should know what's on that property. We should know exactly how far back we would want to be, where our lines, yes, we want to be this square here or this square, but not all of this. We should know that already without even having to come to talk to us.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around having asked the question again.
Hmm.
For me, if anything is for sale, it's for sale. When you come into the town and there's a parcel of land that is for sale, it's for sale. This is all the land that we have and can be for sale. Because that individual might be looking at something going, yeah, well, that's the only thing that's for sale. Had he known he, she, company, corporation.
That
This land,
land was even
Look at
ours,
it like
yeah.
that instead.
well, this isn't in their municipal reserve or any kind of protected land. It's just land we own, correct?
Mhm.
That's
Yeah, but who knew it,
And I do
other than the
local
person?
land.
Yeah,
Well,
Well,
obviously.
and that's fine.
There,
So when he reached out, we told him the land, and then he phoned later that day and said, who owns this? Is how it played out. And
So
I
we
said
didn't
that- I
really
said
know
the
at the
town
time.
owns that. And he said, oh, okay, and then he came back with all of this.
Like, I just think there's a lot of value in this land, and even though maybe if one doesn't maybe have a plan for it yet, like, once it's gone and we sell it, it's gone, right? And like, you look at that one residential property on the river, 1 acre, bidding war for, sold for $450,000. Like, Riverbank property is hot. We control it right now. And I just don't know if us as a council, it would be a smart decision that could fall back on us. If, you know, I don't know, I'm a little bit worried because once you lose it, you lose it, and that's it.
Well, there's opportunities to have little cafes down there or a resort of some sort.
And I'm not opposed to,
And you take that away by just saying, here, you can have it.
and I'm
So
not opposed to maybe something, but I just don't know, like, so much, like, it's so much, like, I feel we can, if you're wanting lots, if you want to develop, why are we going so big with it right away? Like, we could go smaller, start with this much and put up 10 lots, not 150.
and it
We're losing
maybe
all
it
of
should
them.
go out to tender.
That's just where I'm at with it.
So
I was gonna say, so the one thing I would say about how to, why so much? For all we know, the developer's prepared to build houses on every one of those lots in the next 5 years. Are we gonna make the decision to stifle development?
They're not talking about development. They're talking about developing the lot,
That's right.
but not putting anything there other than the streets and. So is that
They're gonna-
considered development? A developer usually comes in and puts in the buildings too, the infrastructure along with that.
There's a lot of questions around it with not a lot of answers besides we want land and land to develop, like,
It ties it up for 3 years.
There's another big piece of parcel land that we sold commercially that wanted to develop, and here we are, 10 years later, with nothing built on it.
Yeah.
Right,
But there
and-
wasn't anything put in place to make them build
Yeah, you
something.
can't get it
And
back.
and
either.
we've learned from that. That's why we're at this.
That's why there's all these contingencies there,
Right.
that
so we can send a counter offer, we can amend the borders of where council is comfortable, or we can.
Quite frankly, I'm not going to make a decision based on this or what could be. I want to see what it is.
What's the OCP say?
The river banks for the public.
You gotta abide by that document.
once it's passed.
We're passing it after we.
Yeah.
First we do this and then we pass that.
What I was thinking when I was reading the minutes.
So another part of that OCP though is to expand our housing and residential property availability. This is directly in line with that too.
But she's saying you're not to get developing housing with this, you're developing lots.
Yeah.
And what we do have is lots.
Yeah.
Plenty of them, up in
Yeah.
Coventry. So
There's
that
a
are
list of different
available
houses.
for development.
There's a list of them to be able to.
they obviously, this would be like, I'm guessing, they actually didn't even say they're gonna be big lots. They're gonna actually be quite small.
Same as right in town.
Well, the
Yeah.
minimum size, they're
minimum
not gonna be
size.
less than that.
Yeah, not less than the minimum size. We're not talking.
They could be double size, they could be, who
They could
knows?
be acres, I
That's
mean,
out there.
So if you went with 1 acre lots, at 30 acres, right, that's leaving 10 acres of development. At a base tax, they're paying $42,000 a year. Roughly.
Yeah.
Right, $1,200, and there would be more on a 1 acre lot, of course, but that's like the low with 10 acres left, or however you wanted to divide it up, but that was kind of. So that there is still tax money coming in for it, which ultimately I would think if you invested $3 to $5 million, you would be looking at the housing portion as soon as you got to where you needed to sell your lots to make it go. But
What do they want, water and sewer into this area too, or they put that in?
currently is part of what they would be doing with the purchase of the land, which is why the offer was where the offer was.
Yeah, they're looking to invest $3 to $5
$5
million
million, yeah.
in.
There'll be no taxes until it's developed.
just for the base land. That's that 42,000 he was talking about.
When somebody comes in to develop land like this, there's also the contingency of land that needs to be kind of kept as green space or something. I think I read it somewhere around
Use it for
10%, right?
Yep.
So that 10% mark could include or be taken as part of the
Yeah, but where are you
towards
putting that
the
10%?
riverbank. Right.
Beside the railroad?
Well, that's what I'm saying. You could put it on the riverbank side. That allows room
Well, that's
for.
where it should be, and it should be automatically already figured in the drawings, is what I'm saying.
So,
Yeah,
but without
yeah.
survey and engineering and everything else, so if we wanna pay for engineering to do this and subdivide it and surveying, then that's a route that we would have to choose to go. Right, because if they're going to invest $3.5 million, they wanna know that they're gonna be what they're gonna be able to build to do it, right? Where, like, we can draw the lines, I'm not saying there's nothing there, but I'm just saying that we're trying to get to somewhere
Mhm.
where it's past negotiate, like where there's an agreement where we're putting it in place to be able to survey it, where if they start spending money, there is a potential for return. Whereas right now, they have nothing unless everything would have to be, they would have to start investing based on
No, nothing.
no agreement
Yeah.
or no potential agreement moving forward.
Well, the town should be probably, if this is a consideration for sale, whether it's to them or in the future, we should actually be surveying, so we know where our property lines are, not subdivide, but surveying the lines, so you know exactly where you can put things. That should be a cost that is done, and then that can be used in the agreement. Then you know exactly if it's gonna be 30 acres or less than 41. That's too vague.
Yeah,
Jeff, did you have?
I was just gonna say that then it would be the town having to get the geotech report and get these different studies and do that legwork, whereas if it were sold like this, that onus is on the developer to get those things and provide those things. And then we follow the recommendation of those reports.
You mean just doing a survey of the land to know where the lines are?
Well, to
You don't
say where
need a
you can,
geotag for
if you wanna
that.
say where you can put houses or not.
That
you
would be
need a
up to the
geotag.
developer, but at least you know where the lines are. So that you know, maybe we wanna be 100 feet back. And then we have, as a town, should be taking responsibility of knowing that that riverbank is safe. It's nothing worse than having a whole row of houses go down the riverbank.
Okay.
And then they've come back to the town and say, you ought to have known before you gave that permission.
Right, that's point of the geotech.
Yes,
So you would like the town to do a geotech prior?
not until it's time to build.
But you-
But if
Right.
the developer is doing the geotech, then we need to have somebody look at it to make sure we're not have a liability in the future. Cause it's happened, Edmonton's us too.
So the one in Saskatoon, I made a couple of notes on that. They did have some issues with slumping and everything in Saskatoon, but it did not stop their development, but rather required any additions made to have geotechnical investigations done. And that guided the extent of the development. So it didn't stop it, it just guided it.
In that case, yes.
So I don't think we have to worry, like if they do the geotechnical and it says, well, you can have it within 100 feet. Then if we were okay with having it within 100 feet, the geotechnical would potentially support that. Jeff,
What I see this is them going for a home run off the bat. 41 acres of some of our prime land right by the river and everything. Like, see, we can get it, and then we know that it's going to have nothing but up value. That's what I see this as, right? I would be interested in trying something small with them, smaller than 41. That's a lot when you look at all that land, right? By there, maybe somewhere around 10, right? Let's see if we can do something with 10, and then if they're doing good and we can have a good, useful relationship with them, then we and have a trusted developer that's going to build and bring in some, decent housing and everything. Well, then we can look further. The way this is written is actually very good because basically, and purchase is contingent upon the agreement for servicing. So we have a lot of ways that we could back out of the selling of this land, right?
Yeah.
Simply put, right? So the control is still here, right? Of what's going to get built, where it's going to get built, how much is going to get built, right? But the thing that they'll get is the controlling factor on that amount of land, 41 acres, which is all our best land in that area, right? So, yeah. So if we went with something smaller, one that might encourage other developers to look at it too. And then we can go with something like that. Probably it's not going to be what they want to hear because who wouldn't want to hit a home run and get all that land for that, hey? Hey, that's a lot of land and right by the river too. So
And that's fine for council to come back with a counter offer to them. We presented the offer to council, and if you want to go with 10 acres or 15 acres or.
Still will need to know where it is.
Yeah,
Say
there has to
which-
be borders.
well, the thing is though, that's all contingent upon the things. If you actually read this, all we're saying is that we're interested.
I've
in
read
this
it,
much, yeah.
Jeff.
I know you have. Contingent upon servicing agreements and creation of a site plan, right
There's
there.
still not any borders. You can be
We can
contingent
add-
on anything, but there's no lines.
Well, maybe we could add lines in there. Joyce wants lines. Kate, can we get?
that's part of the negotiation and the agreement when the time comes. If
When the time comes,
Right.
but I have no appetite
So,
based on this motion right now.
so what?
That's what I'll say.
So were we to say yes now, then negotiations would start and then those lines would be created and come back to council. Do you like these lines?
You never do anything after
Table
the
like a
fact.
dog.
The problem is the developer would have to potentially spend,
The investor,
whoever, would have to spend potentially tens of thousands of dollars to come up with those plans. And if we say no, then they're not gonna be real excited either.
We can amend the resolution to say that we enter into negotiations with the investor.
oh, they can
developer.
also come with a kind of a guideline of what they are looking at. It doesn't have
Yes.
to be professional.
We can say up to
I mean,
10.
it's just a pencil and a ruler.
I agree with what Jeff said. It's not that I'm against like some form of development, but I think giving away all of this in one shot and a one-shot offer is a little. I don't think we should be doing that. I think start smaller. It still opens development. And then if this developer does something with that and it's really, really good and build a relationship, it doesn't mean that there's not an option in the future, but I think that's too much, giving it all away.
Just out of curiosity, Jeff or Derek, do you know when the last time we've had something like this come to council would have been of this magnitude or similar
2016.
Yeah.
for residential?
2008.
that
Lynn,
one
sorry?
down in the co-op, you mean?
2008, I think there was a geotechnical study done on what is now the Hanford land for interest of residential. That would be the last time we've had a larger discussion like this. Just somebody putting some money forward.
It was 2016 when the Moffett, that property sold, and there wasn't a big discussion, trust me.
Council was weighted at that time, wasn't it?
Hmm?
Wasn't council weighted at that time for the last?
Mhm. And the Paladors did
Like-
leave the room
Yeah.
after being asked.
Yeah.
When you look at this, the timeline is like, by August 1st, we're gonna be doing this. By May 1st, 2026, which isn't a long time, it's a year. They're gonna want that. There's no way I think 41 acres is too much. 10, stay away from the river and don't sell that. And see if they're willing to work with us.
I could see
So-
20 acres staying away from the river.
Okay,
Put it in, you got the drainage ditch there, you got two different parcels.
17.87, start with that
Yeah.
type thing.
I
Yeah.
think that would be better. Yeah.
and no, not the river.
Yeah.
And
And the
So
opening,
you don't have 17.87 acres if you take your,
That's right.
simple as that.
That's 10, but that would be the 10 roughly. if you
that's
took
what I was thinking too.
I-
You have and access off of Denton there, so you can.
yeah, because there's an
If-
opportunity to do something there, I can see it.
That would be where you'd start. That just makes the most sense,
For
right?
sure.
The purple area, I don't think you can start. It's too close to the river. So it'd be
Yeah.
that area that you
Well,
could
the
start.
purple area is
Purple area is gone.
that's. That would
That's
work.
staying?
That has nothing to do
Yeah.
with.
Oh,
Yeah, because I
Just the
went and
purple.
drove at the end of
Yeah,
that
no.
block
It
and
almost
there's
falls
not
off
much
the edge
room.
there, like that's
Yeah.
true riverbank, and that
Yeah.
was, our infrastructure ends at the end of Connell Street there.
Yep.
It was just too much, and then not trying to have anything behind, that's why we took that piece out, and then the rest was just to kind of just fit the parcel layout is how we drew it up.
I thought there was
And-
even shifting around the old hospital area.
And if they were really worried about the riverbank being developed, us selling it for development somewhere else, I'd be looking, we could put that into municipal reserve. And then be able to make sure it's gonna be parkland.
Yeah.
So accessible by all, including the people who would be in that area. So that might be a way to reassure them that we're just not gonna sell this land here and then turn around and sell the
Yeah.
better land up by the lake. Say, no, we're gonna keep that for municipal reserve. And once you put something in municipal reserve, yes, you can take it out of it, but it's a process. It's not an easy thing to do. So we had to do with Central Park back in the day. Want to build a condo there again, it's gonna be tough. Just a thought.
And that's where you would get the survey done, so you can identify what that municipal land is, property.
I'm gonna go there, the town will give us a taste of what they think if we sell a small chunk of it. We sell it all, we're gonna get a big taste, that's all there is to it.
Mhm.
I don't wanna be that part.
But-
I don't mind development, but I don't wanna be a part of it.
You look at how close sewer and water is to this area, right? That land could actually be developed. It would probably be pretty valuable for subdivision. Cause right there, right?
Go ahead, Les.
I got another question, maybe Jamie can jump in on this one. So if we develop that area down there, or they develop that area down there, and we add our 11th Avenue, services, is that gonna handle it down there?
It should, yeah.
Should,
Well, unless I have a report
Yeah.
of how many houses are going in there and things like that. Right? That's all gonna come down,
cause
but we're still got lots of.
if we're gonna develop the
Testing.
south there, that's
Yeah.
gonna put a load, stress on that down there.
The last report up to Connell Street was 14% capacity.
14 to 20%.
That's on the main line. All you gotta do is jet the corner a little bit when solids build up. Twice a year?
Yeah, we do it twice a year, but preferably, hopefully we get something done next year for that area.
So we're not gonna overload that bottom end then
No.
with the next 25 years.
Well, unless we boom, like, and then we're looking at a total different.
I think we got an idea, we go with that piece of land minus the river area. Making a statement that we might go to municipal reserve on it, and then, yeah, I don't know. I didn't talk, you know, a bit more.
So if we're going at 10 acres, is their price, is it still staying at
17.
60,000? Or, yeah,
But
but it'll be
minus,
10 by the time I go to municipal, or we give or take, like, I don't know what it'll be, but
What's the price?
just so I have a number to give them,
Well, either $1,000 to $1,500 an acre.
1,500.
Just-
Because if they develop it, then we don't need to get the value out of it, because the other ones are gonna put the sewer, the water, the road, everything into it, like, that's all gonna come out in the servicing agreements.
yeah, 1,500 is still pretty cheap
For that. piece
for,
of property.
yeah, for
And it's
just
not a
any
huge
land.
investment or risk to them either, so they think they can do it. 20% of that is not, and I mean, it's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money. So,
So would we be comfortable amending the resolution to say enter into negotiations?
I don't know if we're there yet.
well,
I need to see something.
Could I just make a deny it all, would be my recommendation,
Mm.
to deny everything and talk to them with what we have to see if they have any interest in it.
Right.
And basically, like, if nothing ever happened,
Because if you come back and say this, they might say not interested in this.
that's the whole thing,
So we'll
so
just say
that's where,
we're denying everything that was brought to the table today.
and we have much more information to go with it.
and we need more information about what you want to do here. And now they kind of know where our motivations lie too, with the riverbank for sure.
And with the OCP too.
But I do think it could be developed.
Should have smaller stuff.
We can
So,
do it in phases.
so are there any more questions or comments? Okay, so for this motion, all those in favor? And all those opposed? It is defeated.
And you said favor, okay? So,
Yep.
okay.
That the draft financial statements for the period ending March 31st, 2025 be approved as presented. Everybody's had a chance to take a look. All those in favor? That the financial reports for April 28th, 2025 be approved as presented. Councilor Stewart. Maria, anything exciting that you maybe want to point out?
No, this is just AP listing.
Do we have any questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor? It's carried. That the reports of senior administrative officials reported as items 9.1 to 9.2.8 be received and filed. Councilor Newdorf. All those in favor? That the department monthly reports be received and filed. Councilor Fast. And with that, we will start with Maria, Corporate Services.
Not really too much to report. The assessment roll opened for our 2025 revaluation assessment year. I had kind of expected to hear maybe 1 or 2 appeals at this point, but so far there's been nothing. We've had lots of questions and lots of people phoning in, just, asking for more information regarding the assessment. But other than that, It's kind of been pretty quiet, so that's a good thing. We did receive the actuarial report from Eckler for our vested sick leave, and we forwarded that to the auditor. So other than that, that's kind of the only thing new and exciting in my world.
Thank you, Maria. Do we have any questions or comments?
Are you able to tell us, when we come in, what our taxes are?
Well, we can after we actually set them,
Okay.
right?
Right.
We haven't set the
Mill rates.
actual mill rates.
Well, I thought that we had,
We have the budget sets and the amount of money we need, but we don't have the mill rates or factors set yet.
okay.
I imagine that'll be coming up pretty soon.
Well, the assessment roll has to close first. So being that it's a revaluation year, it's open for 60 days. So it closes June 6th, I believe. And so then my assumption would be that by the last council meeting in June, that will come forward with the rates to council for approval.
Do you notice any trends in anything like with our condos, with decreased values or anything like that, or with our smaller commercial businesses? How that might affect their taxes, like general?
Trends, not necessarily. It's kind of been a little odd in looking at just, kind of taking a random sample of different properties. Some older properties that you would think would have been valued lower are sometimes higher. Some properties that are older but have maybe more of a prominent position within town, even though they're an older property, their value has gone up. Like it's really different this year because they've changed the way that they do value some of their properties, right? Like they're looking at a lot more comparable properties, and I think with that comes also where properties are located, So
we don't know if the condo owners or anything like that, or
I
where
do believe
they're,
the condos did come in lower.
that's what I
Yeah,
remember.
believe
Yes.
They did
Yeah.
too.
Looking at them specifically, I only knew a couple of addresses that I actually looked up to see, and there
Mhm.
were a couple, and they were lower. So I think they should be.
I know mine
Yeah.
went up.
Oh, the apartments
6%.
too. Yeah.
Your assessed value?
Yeah. But I noticed that the residential went up, but the commercial went down
Yeah.
overall.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes.
All right, that's kind of what I know, just kind of the pulse on it all, where we're at. That's about as good as we can get right now. So,
No, well, I was curious on mine, I'm completely, I guess, lack of a better word, when it comes to this, is you can appeal. What are we appealing right now?
Just the assessed value,
It's the
and I
assessed
think the
value.
assessed value on yours in particular did go down.
So, well, the reason that I get concerned about this is because I'll just use an example that happened to me.
Mhm.
Our taxes quadrupled in the Adair subdivision. And then, and it was like, I said, here's the assessment, and the phone and ask and whatnot, and all of a sudden you have this tax bill. That's what actually concerned me, that's why I was asking questions.
Right.
And I still have not figured out the mill rate yet, sorry.
Yeah, that's when you,
all right, no worries. Right.
And with the assessment roll,
Sound
you
like a
can
jerk.
only appeal the assessed value, you cannot appeal your taxes.
Right.
So it's only if you just discover that there's an error, that maybe you don't have a finished basement and they say you have a finished basement.
Right.
Or they have the size off, or
Right.
those
I
types of
think-
things.
type.
But even
Because
that,
wasn't the bank thought of as a leasing property or a rental property, and it was a bank?
Right.
So it really changed theirs at one time.
oh, did they do assessments on the churches? Cause I had that come by my desk today.
I would have to take a
No.
look.
Cause they don't pay taxes, eh?
Right, I believe they're just exempt because they still have a value.
Yes, I believe
Yeah.
they're
We'll double check that. just
See if they're actually
confirm.
assessing them, because we have churches that are gonna go
Yes.
bye-bye and they're probably gonna be sold, so they're looking for
I
valuations
believe
on
they're
them.
still
right.
assessed.
Yeah.
They're
Yes,
just
that
exempt.
came to my office today, that was fun.
Yeah.
I wasn't busy with something else, so.
Any other questions for Maria? You said you're looking that up,
I
right?
sent them to see Maria.
Right, I'll just go on to the next one for now. So we've got, community services and, Derek.
So it's a long one. I tried to summarize everything from the two conferences as much as I could. The food, fuel and fertilizer one a little bit more because there was nobody else there. I guess the big thing I got out of food, fuel and fertilizer is municipal government, provincial government needs to start lobbying this federal government quickly and try and force some stuff. This was the key takeaways from it all. Even if you have 5 things that you want, that's what you should lobby for type thing is kind of was the general consensus of out of there. I tried to put down with the 2 people and of course they're targeted to, one was, I believe CN and the other one was ag division, right? So ports to railway are huge, largely important to those too. So that's where the examples came from, just from the people that were talking. As far as everything else, so Apple is something. I guess with the app, we've sent it in. It comes back as you can apply as personal for municipal. We send it in as municipal. You never get the same person. So this last week on Friday, we finally got an individual assigned to the Nipawin account. So we're hoping that that speeds it up. And the swag store, the lady who was putting it together had a death in the family, immediate family. I don't know the family member, but was off for 4 weeks. It should be open this week or early next week. I seen it, it's up, it's there, so. For the 2 things that were been on for a long time, that's where they're sitting. And I guess that kind of would be a summary of what I have.
Thank you, Derek. Do you have any questions or comments?
Well, you did mention the CP rail and lobbying. Is that the main one to lobby for fertilizer and inputs and stuff? Because I would imagine that's why they want you to lobby, is to ensure that we can get it transported up here. Otherwise, it's trapped.
Yeah, for here it would be for coming out of food, fuel and fertilizer, it was the CAO of CN that was speaking. So naturally she was lobbying for lobby for CN, right? But yeah, definitely CP would be another one. They want to get as many ports open as they can for fertilizer, uranium and all of the natural resources that are in.
Yeah, and then that would mean the bridge too needs to be maintained by the province for the railroad, not for the road, but for the railroad to
Yes.
ensure that that is safe.
And that would be where the lobbying starts. And they were lobby the feds because of the animosity within the organization. It's time for basically the provinces to team up and start making them do the things that the provinces need as opposed to doing the things that the government feels that they need to do. That was kind of the point, right? The general consensus of the majority of the speakers. Open interprovincial trade barriers. Because in there I have a stat, the 25% tariffs are will only affect GDP 2.6%. Interprovincial trade affects it at 3.2%. So the interprovincial trade barriers are more harmful than the tariffs right now. So just to put it into a perspective of this entire election is pretty well based on the US tariffs, like that, how they campaigned or whatever, right? Whereas interprovincial trade barriers affect us more.
It's more important that Canada comes
right?
together
So,
and starts working together.
100%, and that was these guys. That's every one of them was on the same page for lobbying the federal government in that effect.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments for Derek?
I can confirm churches are assessed. I knew they were assessed. They are assessed. They're just exempt from
Taxes, yeah, so.
Yeah.
If someone's looking for a valuation on it,
That's
then
right.
they can come and see Maria. The way, sorry about that.
Well, actually, they need to ask the church.
There's a whole process.
Privacy.
Thank you, Derek. So protective services, as you can see, Paul is not in. Michelle, can you speak a little bit to it?
I think
I
it's
think it's pretty straightforward.
pretty straightforward. If anybody has any questions, I can potentially answer them or take them back and come back to you with
There's
answers.
been a few fires up there.
Yeah.
Dry, dry, dry.
It is
Good job.
very dry.
Yeah.
We,
I don't know.
I
Just-
anticipate that.
Even with all
Great
that
job to our
snow.
fire department. They're like, you see the stuff all over the place. Like they've been busy and called out multiple times. So
It's unfortunate.
it's appreciated.
Yeah, I think they're also starting to see, obviously with the snow disappearing.
Yep.
Sharps getting to be a bigger and bigger issue,
Mhm.
but they've been working on that and working with Scan by the looks of it a little bit,
Mhm.
so. All right. And the last one is our planning department, and Jeff.
I don't have anything to add to this one.
Yeah. Okay, do we have any questions or comments for Jeff? No, it's a quiet night for you. All right, thank you, Jeff. All right, everybody's gone through the reports. All those in favor? That's carried. That council hereby awards the landfill well drilling project to Northern Drilling Limited for the quoted amount of $6,762.80 plus GST, with funds to come from GL account capital landfill number 441410820, as recommended by the GM of Operations and Engineering, and that council waive the applicable provisions of the purchasing policy regarding obtaining 3 quotes in this instance. Councillor Vic. And Jamie.
Yeah, so, this is a local company. There is only one local drilling company that I'm aware of. I've looked around. There might be some out in Choiceland area and stuff like that, but I was unaware. So this is just for, the landfill office scale house, just to operate toilets, shower and sinks and stuff like that. But they said they could be potable, but it's at the landfill. We will get it tested. But unless it's 100% for sure.
The WCP claim.
Yeah. And this is gonna be added into the ICIP grant as well. So we're only paying 30 cents on the dollar for this. There's gonna be multiple little jobs like this coming.
Yeah.
Because it's capital, I have to bring it. But anyway, that's that.
Any questions for Jamie? Well, gesundheit. All right, all those in favor? That's carried. That council award the contract for the replacement of header trench supports at the Jubilee Arena to Simcoe Refrigeration, a division of Toromont Industries Limited, at a total amount of $21,367.50 plus GST, as per their proposal dated April 15th, 2025, with funds to come from the Arena Capital Account GL number 461720820, as recommended by the GM of Leisure Services. And Chelsea.
Thank you. So yes, Leisure Services issued an RFP for replacement of the header trench supports in the Jubilee Arena. It is included in the 2025 capital budget for 30,000. We received 2 bids back, Simcoe Refrigeration and Stevenson Industrial. The bids we received, although they are a very large dollar amount apart, from everything that I can read and gather from the report, they are comparable. They both, Stevenson bid 2, the bid stainless steel or galvanized. So the galvanized that Simcoe bid are all very comparable. The only difference with Simcoe is that they have the staff, disposing of the current support system, which is not difficult for us to do, nor costly. So our recommendation is to go with Simcoe.
Thank you, Chelsea. Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor?
Hold on.
Oh.
Nope, yeah, sorry. I
Okay.
read something,
Oh, all those in favor?
I read something wrong.
Okay.
Second, I thought you said we're gonna award it to Stevens Family, but it's the different. I was cross-eyed, sorry,
No, that's good. Thank you.
getting ahead with drywall.
That council hereby authorizes administration to approve Catterall and Wright Consulting Engineers to proceed with the request for proposal process for the 11th Ave West and 10th Street West Sewer and Water Extension Project, pending approval from the Saskatchewan Municipal Board for the associated borrowing as recommended by the GM of Operations and Engineering. Councillor Blair. And Jamie.
So yeah, we've been working very hard with Catterall and Wright here for over, I'd say, 10 to 12 months in regards to this expansion that we want to do to get over to 12th. What we've come up with is tying into the existing line in a couple places when growth is needed. This one is going to be a start of it. It will service about up to 3/4 of that field area that we're looking to purchase down the road if that ever happens or somebody comes in and develops. But for the price, it's about half the price, close to half the price to do this, and it will service all of 10th Street, right from Councillor Blair's business, right down right to 12th, and connect on 9th. From 11th Avenue to the 10th, and then that will be able to open up that area, and then over by work in front of Co-op, if we want to expand more of that field, say for development, that we can tie into that area as well. But for the price, I think this is our best bang for the buck to get that area going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions or comments on this one? Jeff?
So you said that field 3/4, that's the field directly south of that, hey?
Yes, that's correct.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. And then we could always take a look at elevation wise if
Yeah.
we bring the lots up, like there could be some dirt work to just add additional for elevation of piping. So if you put in the roadways, you could always build them up and then put in there, or just a small lift station. Sorry. I think what's going on, yeah, or a small lift station to do that.
Les?
So is that gonna be open excavation or are they gonna drill it?
A little bit of both.
A bit of both, they'll have to dig the con for the tie-ins and stuff.
Yeah, it'll be drilling through the highway and then open excavation and then a total road repair. So the road actually will be completely done.
So then we can lift the road and make it drain and.
Yes, that's the plan, yeah. Yeah, that's all added into this.
Not have a really big puddle in that one spot.
That's why I haven't been phoning in bugging yet. I know it's gonna get torn up, but.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we'll be able to service all them houses as well, if we want to, or they want to. Like there's probably 8 lots there that can be serviced to, that people can tie into.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? It's carried. That council hereby appoints Chris Latender, BOL 438, owner of BMB Enforcement Services, to provide class 1, 2, and 3 building official services for the town of Nipawin, and that council authorized the mayor and CAO to enter into a new 3-year agreement with BMB Enforcement Services effective May 1st, 2025. Counselor Blair. Derek?
So we put out the RFP for second class 3 building inspector to go with Municode. We had 2 proposals, one being B&B Enforcement Services, one being CC Ask. They're also out of Saskatoon. They'd be very similar to a Municode in size and everything. And being that they're only level 3, you wouldn't save any money on travel because the amount of inspections that they would be doing would not make it worthwhile. And Chris, being local, is able to tie everything into one. Therefore, the prices are comparable, possibly cheaper depending on what he was coming out for. So I believe that Chris is kind of what we were looking for.
Do we have any questions or comments? We've been kind of working with them now for a while. It seems to be okay, so. All right, all those in favor? And opposed? It's carried. The council hereby awards the contract to provide bylaw maintenance and cleanup duties to Aquila Works Group of Smeaton, Saskatchewan, with funding to be provided through budget line 421-220-222, bylaw enforcement contractor other, as recommended by the GM of Protective Services. Councillor Vic. And Paul is not here, so I'll let Michelle speak to this.
Paula's not here. We had a contractor from, I believe, the Dale area over the past few years. We've done cleanup when there's yard cleanup, grass, whatever, after the bylaw enforcement has issued orders. And it was time to put it out for tender, and we received one tender and or one proposal. And this is the recommendation that we engage this individual to this company to provide their services for us.
Just because I'm not aware, like familiar with it, so when they get called by bylaw, this bill is put on the person's taxes,
That's correct. Well, they're invoiced for it and.
so there's no
tax.
personal cost to the town.
No, it will go on to the property. There may be a cost if it goes into tax enforcement and
Right.
then it goes.
But
on the
initially,
taxes.
there is no
But
cost.
typically, no, it goes on the taxes of the property. And I've just made a few notes in 2023, we had 25 files that they worked on for us. And in 2024, there were 33 files, so. It's a lot of time that they put in for us, a lot of files that they help out. And that our staff just wouldn't have the time to do.
Even though there was just the one bid, were their prices in line with what we've paid in the past, or?
Pretty much, yes, and they have, will have they have WCD, they have all of the clearances that they're required to have, they'll follow our safety program. Businesses and yep.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor? It's carried. Yeah.
Well, actually not.
Are you within 75 meters?
Is that?
Oh, no, you're working on it.
Could be working.
Oh,
I don't know.
Like
It's up to you.
helping build it?
There's. It's not that I just got it,
Right.
so I don't know.
It's just public note letter.
I don't think that would necessarily.
It's your call.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't,
I'll step out then, it's all good.
Okay. So we'll add 9.2.6,
Yeah, exactly.
which Stacy Day. Okay. That council of the town of Nipawin agrees to consider application 2508 for a daycare on lot 1, block 40, plan 77 PA 03383, and that public notice letters be delivered in a 75-meter radius of the property, and that an ad be issued in the rural routes for 1 week, and that a site plan meeting the parking requirements of zoning bylaw 763/2000 be provided and showing connections of roads to municipal streets. Councillor Stewart. Jeff.
This application is for the daycare that's proposed to go where the old water treatment plant was. They provided, the site plan is attached, and I went through it just kind of as a preliminary to see if they needed to include anything else. The one item regarding the parking was discovered and included. The next, if council agrees to consider, is to send out the advertisements and the letters to people in the area, to give them an opportunity to comment on the daycare going in their area. And then we prepare a formal review report for council, going through everything in the zoning bylaw and the OCP, well, the district plan, I guess, it'll still be the district plan. And then providing a recommendation to council to either approve with conditions, or refuse with reasons.
Thank you, Jeff. And do we have any questions or comments? Yeah, pretty straightforward. All those in favor? It's carried. This is 9.2.7. Yeah. I made notes, stuck them on here this time. Catch 'em. That council hereby approves allocating $10,000 from the current capital budget GL account 451-620-820 for the purchase of 25 to 30 mesh banners at a rate of $209.95 per banner, plus setup and freight for the purpose of enhancing Nipawin's streetscape as recommended by the GM of Community Services. Councillor Bast. And Derek.
Thanks. This is just a carryover of dollars over a 2-year budget plan. First year in December, we approved to buy the first 60. And then this would be to purchase the other 30 or whatever we have left over with it. Local was approved through a local guy. The designs, they're being printed as we speak.
Any questions or comments? All right, all those in favor? That's carried. That council hereby agrees to enter into the Community Airport Partnership Program Agreement, under which the ministry will contribute 50% of eligible project expenditures up to a maximum of $160,000, and that the town's portion of the $160,000 be taken from GL account Capital Fund Reserve number 310100407 instead of a loan that was approved in the 2025 capital budget. Councillor Stewart. And Jamie.
Yes, so we were awarded this probably a couple months ago, but with the election and stuff, the government didn't announce it till here on Friday. I was told today. PA now actually had it out. Me and Michelle were talking about it on Saturday. So we quickly put this together, but yeah, the funding part, instead of taking out a loan, we decided to take it out of our reserves for these funds. Again, this is for crack filling all of the runway. The taxiway was done last year, a fog coat, and then extending the turnaround area where the air ambulance comes in to make it a lot bigger and easier for them to operate around there. And yeah, so now it'll just going to be going to an RFP and hopefully get done this year.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yep.
Do we have any questions or comments? Nice little chunk of change for the airport, so that'll make a few people happy out there.
Yeah, 50% dollars. That's nice.
Take advantage of every opportunity we can.
Yeah. All right, all those in favor? That's carried. That the reports of standing and special committees recorded as item 10.1 be received and filed. Councillor Blair. All those in favor? That's carried. That council hereby approves the amended council remuneration policy as recommended by the Governance Standing Committee at the meeting held April 2nd, 2025. Councillor Pass. And who would like to speak to this?
You can if you want.
This is just an amendment to the remuneration policy, and it cleans up and expands on what meetings, events, travel that council are authorized to attend as a member of council, and what items require prior council approval to attend.
Does anybody have any questions, comments? Okay, all those in favor? That's carried. That the reports of committees and boards recorded as item 11.1 be received and filed. Councillor Neudorf. Everybody's had a chance to read through the report from the museum. Any questions or comments we want to take back or anything like that? Okay, all those in favor? It's carried. That communications recorded as items 12.1 to 12.6 be received and filed. Councillor Pick. All those in favor? That's carried. That council hereby recognizes May 5th, 2025 as the National Day of Awareness of Missing Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirit in the town of Nipawin, and that council approves the request from Reconciliation Nipawin to display red dresses in the trees directly beside Suncrest College facing 2nd Street East to commemorate the National Day of Awareness for Missing Murdered Indigenous Women, Girls, and Two-Spirit. Councillor Watts. I don't think there's going to be any questions or comments here.
No, and given the police report, I did notice that there's almost 2 sexual assaults a month last year, so awareness is important.
I'll just comment, something that happened in my hometown. A girl I went to school with, her daughter, very recently was taken and was not a favorable outcome. So awareness is needed. All those in favor? It's carried. That council hereby proclaims May 13th, 2025 as National Denim Day in the town of Nipawin in support of the Cure Foundation for breast cancer. Councilor Newdorf. Again, any questions or comments? All those in favor? It's carried.
Can I just bring attention to the last one, the dog park grand opening is being held on May 31st at 11 o'clock at the dog park.
Hopefully if someone can make it, I'm coaching in Saskatoon that weekend.
Yeah,
Yeah,
out of town as well.
I think I will be in town yet that weekend. There was another one I did send an email out.
McDonald's and
Right.
Cafe.
Yeah. So. All right. So down to new business. I know there isn't a resolution here, but I just want to point to it on the agenda. Did everybody get a chance to kind of read through the three reports that were put in there?
Yep.
So of the attendees, there was Les and then Derek and Michelle and myself. And Jamie also attended a day for the trade show. And Chelsea was there as well, just not on the town side, more Parks and Rec.
Yeah, both, and apologies, I didn't get information into you.
That's all right. So of the attendees, did anybody want to just kind of add or briefly say anything about their experience this year?
Well, I found it, the trade show part of it, wasn't worth my time. I found that, there was a few exhibitors that I talked to, but I had to really hunt around to get interested in some of the things there, so I found it, I heard Regina has equipment and stuff, they didn't even have any equipment there, and that's what I was only going there for, was to look at machinery and items that, new items, new things that they're doing, and I really didn't find any of that.
Derek?
I would agree. I think Regina actually puts on a better show, even though Saskatoon's a much better place to drive to.
Yeah.
They're just more training, and I think some of it has to do with administration staff from the ministers being available to be there, as opposed to always getting the politician's answer, where you get, everybody knows exactly how it works, right? There was much more detail in the education sessions in Regina than in Saskatoon, is what I found.
And it alternates every year?
Yes, and I guess that's kind of what I found too, never have gone to one before, and being a new experience. I was looking for more training, hoping for more training, and there wasn't much training, but now that I see what the purpose of it all is, I can understand why there wasn't the training. The trade fair, I kind of agree with Jamie, there was a lot of people there that they like to see hands-on equipment and stuff, but there seemed to be a lot of technology related booths and things there, so it didn't do anything for me. The speakers were awesome, very knowledgeable, and they knew their craft. Pamela Barnum, young lady that was bought drugs for the police. That was pretty informative, and but she talked about reading body language and things. And I forget the doctor's name. Zorba, Dr. he worked the Lower East Side, Vancouver, and as a doctor, treating the addicts and the homeless, and his solution that he saw to the problem was creating homes for the kids. You gotta start with the kids, and they gotta have a place to live. I don't disagree with him, but that's a big ask, but that was his take on how to fix the mental illness and the drugs and that kind of stuff that was going on. Marla and I sat with the mayor from a small community one night, and she was exasperated at how to handle her council and just pretty much beside herself. And so we know what that's like. Offered some tips and suggestions and things to try and stuff like that, but there was a lot more time that I found to do networking and talk to different people after the event that we hung with Carol and Wright, and then the other end, Hallmark. The second night, had some great interaction with the engineers and stuff, so I heard that the veterans in Regina, you could sit at the table and you could sit with a group of people and you could discuss things. Not knowing that, it makes sense after hearing that. But I think what I took out of that was, and it says here, that we are extremely fortunate here in our community, because there's so many communities that have so much dysfunction in their administration, and they're short-staffed in their health region and their policing and their fire department, protective services. It's actually kind of scary, but we're in pretty good shape up here, and frankly, we should be proud of what we have and continue to work on making it better. But we're pretty lucky up here. We've got water, endless supply of water. We've got a hospital. We've got everything you need, and there's a lot of communities. There was talking to one lady, they're paying $140 an hour to see a nurse practitioner in their community. There are nurse practitioners there with the SHA, but they're so booked up you can never get to them. So if you need to see the doctor, it's $140 an hour. So I don't think we have any of that here. We're pretty fortunate. So yeah, it was a great experience, and I'm looking forward to going again to see what everybody else is talking about. I know Regina's a long ways away, I hate that drive, but I'm kind of looking forward to next year to go down and take this knowledge that we gain over the next year and have the right questions to ask. I did sit in on one of the seminars there, and I was asked the administrator, the curators, about the sharps that we have. It was a health and safety protection seminar. Their solution was to do a better job of disposal.
Brilliant.
I was sitting there shaking my head, and she said, "It doesn't look like you like that answer." I said, "Well, no, disposal isn't the problem. They just throw them in a snowbank." Like the one-to-one thing, like, is that legitimate? And they didn't really have an answer. It was just, they're gonna do a better job of disposal. Well, yeah, I agree with that, but the whole basis of the convention, like all the honorariums and everything, went to the Prairie Harm Reduction Foundation. And I don't know, do we still have the harm reduction office here? Is the harm reduction doing their job?
Yep.
So, yeah, it was a good experience, and I'm looking forward to going again, and hopefully everybody else or a few more people can go, because it was cool to sit in a group and say, yeah, we're from Nipwood. A resolution passed almost unanimously, so that was kind of fun. But yeah, it was a good experience. I enjoyed it, and I'll probably do it again.
Anything, Michelle?
I can concur with what other people say, and the opportunity to network with other municipalities and discuss our issues and their issues and get ideas and suggestions and see what they are doing. And the opportunity to meet or to sit in the sessions with the ministers and hear what the province is actually doing. I found that very valuable.
And I would agree with Counselor Blair, the discussion, the keynote address from the doctor was quite eye-opening and, made you stop and think about what he was saying. It was a different atmosphere this year, I felt, with the theater staff leading as opposed to in the big room with the round. And I wore the two hats, which is really interesting perspective. You get the municipality perspective and you can follow what is being discussed from the municipalities. Then you also have that little bit of, well, for me, the Parks and Rec side where a lot of times when most of the speakers spoke, they were speaking on the benefits of Parks and Recreation without actually recognizing it all of the time or realizing that, hey, that has a Parks and Rec twist to it and that's a vibrant, healthy community gets Parks and Rec. I'm plugged for Parks and Rec.
You should be an exercise therapist, I'll tell you.
Yeah, so I'll, again,
Exactly the same thing.
we all, I think we all kind of concur on a lot of that, and like I have my write-up in here. Yeah, I think that the venue struggled, especially with the trade show. It made networking a little more difficult because of the seating and things like that. You get out what you put in, and I think we all put in quite a bit. I know some of the conversations we had, even on our bus rides in the morning and stuff with our drivers, were pretty good. So, yeah, definitely looking forward to for next year. And yeah, 97% approval on our resolution. It was the most supported resolution there. So that means that we're on the right track with some of our ideas, and we're not alone. That's the other thing, right? Like everybody is going to be struggling with this. One thing that was cleared up, I did have a chance to have a 5-minute conversation with the Minister of Environment regarding control burns, fire practice within the municipality. And he confirmed that we qualify as an urban center to do practice burns if we so choose on derelict properties. It is not just for the RMs, it is for towns and villages as well. But it's going to take a little bit of time for them to put together their side of it and the regulations. And then at that point, we will start working on ours. I think we did do this in the past, so it'll probably be relatively simple. Go grab the old file, bring it up to date. So gives us some potential maybe on some properties in the future to get rid of them without the same level of cost. So
Don't have two insurances. One from one and one from another. And two insurances meet, they just both disappear. My theory on that.
One thing that he did mention, and I specifically asked, because we know that there's always the risk of asbestos and the increased costs. Apparently when you burn a house, asbestos won't matter, so we won't have to worry about
It
that.
disappears.
Yeah. So,
I mean, if you get hot enough, it'll disappear.
yeah. And then, so one other thing, I just want to put out a couple of special acknowledgements. So the first one, I want to publicly congratulate Rick Manchandy on his 20 years of service. So at the convention, he received his 20-year Meritorious Service Award. So just take a moment and maybe a quick clap for Rick. This one isn't SUMA related, but I'm just going to mention it at the same time. Congratulations down the table to Jeff Rinkue, who has obtained his land planning certificate.
Hey.
And that kind of covers the SUMA stuff. I think. Any questions or comments?
Just one tiny little comment. Anybody that's driven around downtown Saskatoon can appreciate the fact that Charlie's Trotters had, I think one day he had 14 of his coaches just shuttling us around from the hotels to the TCU. So if you can imagine driving a 54-seat passenger bus downtown, you guys did a phenomenal job. It was just hats off to Charlie and his crews.
I can relate. It's not always easy.
Actually, I forgot. I wanted to ask, how did you guys find getting your online voting for the resolutions and stuff?
It was fine. Sometimes it was really hard to hear the audience when they went to the mic. It sounded like they all were talking with marbles in their mouth, but I was able to figure out and,
Yeah.
understand what they were saying, but that was hard.
And they were responsive because I put a note in the chat and they were like, we're working on it. And then I think by the end they started.
It was
to get a little
better, yeah. It was good. It was interesting, actually, to be on
Yeah,
there.
it was.
Still feel like you're part of it, but from.
Yeah, it worked pretty slick.
Yeah,
Once you
for sure.
figured it out,
Yeah.
figured out what was happening.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so we'll continue on. That bylaw number 1197/25, being a bylaw to adopt the official community plan for the town of Nipawin, be introduced and read a first time.
Speaking of the one that, or I'll be the one that says the first time. There you go.
All right,
One that ripped it apart.
I'll give Jeff a quick chance to.
Sure, well, after, it's been quite a few months now, I've been working on this with Wallace Insights and did some revisions and ready for first reading, and then after this, we'll advertise for 4 weeks. And then we'll hold a public hearing, likely June 5th. And then, members of the public could give comments if they have any, last minute ones. And then if council is satisfied, we can do second and third reading June 5th. Or if we want to see changes, we could incorporate changes still at that time, but then we would have to advertise for another 4 weeks. But it can be done.
Do we have any questions or comments?
I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Kept me awake.
Need a copy at the end, right?
No, I was reading it till midnight last night.
I read that thing so many times.
No, it makes sense, and there's a few little wills, but I think that it was in the right places, so.
Yeah, most of the language is a lot, I like the language a lot better now,
Mhm.
where it is, and then the things that you have to be in there, well, I guess they have to be in there, so, the end of it.
Thanks for taking one for the team.
Well, I gave it the first reading, I'm not doing the second and third, you guys can handle it. There
So,
we go.
so once it's adopted, is the next part is to make sure our bylaws
All
match.
followed. Yeah, for Karen.
I think there's been a couple that come in that are like the incentives and stuff that is in line with it, but.
Yeah, everything that you've done over the past while. I think our bylaws pretty much are all in line with it. But of course, we'll be doing that.
I would almost think the bylaws should reference, once this is approved, saying as per or something.
Yeah, if there's a bylaw that
It's
is
very direct.
that is pertinent to that this affects, then of course.
Any other questions or comments? Right, all those in favor?
Please consider it when you're doing your strat planning.
I see a lot of walking trails.
3 or 4 times they mentioned them in there. I think we need a walking trail after we sell the river.
Link it properly and it'll be perfect to go right around the whole town.
All right.
First one.
That administration be directed to prepare an amendment to the traffic bylaw. It doesn't reference the number in here.
That's okay.
Okay, we'll have to add that. I don't know what the traffic bylaw number is. To install a new 4-way stop sign at the intersection of 2nd Avenue East and 2nd Street East.
Right there.
And move the existing 4-way stop sign located at the intersection of 2nd Street West and 1st Avenue West to the intersection of 3rd Street West and 1st Avenue West.
Someone's really gonna wanna do this.
Yeah. Let's let her do it. Right, do we have any discussion? I know we've talked about it a couple of times, so.
I can say my piece on it.
Sure.
Talking with the businesses and everything down there to move the not to add in another four-way, but just to move the four-way allows the bigger trucks to get really across, allows for people to stop and to get to that area. I think it'll do nothing but improve safety in the area. We need to make sure we have signage up, right? In our traffic bylaw, way back when our traffic study we did, they actually said that this corner here was one of the highest accidents. And even today, we heard 3 or 4 people slamming on their brakes just today, right there. So people come down this with a lot of speed, even with that 30 zone you put there, it's still too much speed coming down
Need
this
some
road.
speed bumps. I think it says that in one of the sections here.
Yeah, instead of using the railway or going down the road, they cut through here. That's what's happening.
They do.
It's in bumps, they call them. in some-
Traffic calming.
Traffic calming, yeah.
Like, well, if you hit the traffic calms at the co-op, they're not very calming if you hit those too bad.
Yeah, those-
Does anybody have any other comments or anything? Les?
Yeah, I have a comment. I don't think this is gonna work unless we do something with Second Street, with parking between, Andy Bros and Chrysler.
Hmm.
So I don't know how that works, but I think the two need to go hand in hand. Cause put the stop sign up there is fine, but if the trucks can't get down that street anyway, so they're gonna be going another route. So,
I don't know what they were.
And if you
As-
can't see the stop sign because of the park.
well, and that, so as this reads, I probably against it, but those two things should go hand in hand. One side of the street or the other, or both, or what, but like one of those sides should be no parking.
Didn't we bring that up?
Yeah,
Didn't we have him help?
That was only
Got an
on
email about it.
First Avenue.
Yeah.
So we had to move it back, but that's not the issue. You can't
No,
get
it's-
off railway.
can't get off the railway because those vehicles are always parked there.
I thought Andy was gonna be moving all his stuff out to a different place. I thought we had the bylaw on that already.
And we got an email about it as well.
Yeah.
It's still the parking, probably.
But he
That
goes in
is
to
still-
push the vehicles that are supposed to be, gotta be moved, so he'll go and push them ahead 3 feet. They're moved. So you just gotta eliminate the parking on one side or the other, and so that'll, cause if there's wide loads, trucks are gonna have wide loads coming up there. There's not room. Vehicles parked on both sides of the street. So one of them
Okay.
has to be no parking.
Now, is that an issue that we need to have a different bylaw for, or is that an enforcement problem with too many cars being parked there?
Well, it's probably a bylaw because they're parking, yeah.
We might already have the means of dealing with this, it's just not being enforced.
Well, if they have, anybody can park on the street for 48 hours, right? So the only way to avoid having vehicles on the street is to make it no parking for,
How's that gonna have an effect on the businesses there?
I believe it'll have a big effect on the businesses.
Just not gonna have an
Like,
effect
I mean,
on the
that's,
Sorry.
Jamie?
Well, I brought up a while ago, I think it was the last council, why not just have no overnight parking? So you can only park there from 6 AM to 6 PM.
Yeah, but then the semis are still coming.
We still can't get through a truck.
Yeah, but if there won't be that many vehicles parked there per business, right? Like to go to Dodge and.
I think sometimes what happens with some of those vehicles is they do just get dropped off in the middle of the night too.
Yeah.
Tow truck comes in and just drops a vehicle wherever there's room, and away they go. And the businesses don't even necessarily know about it until they get there in the morning.
We have to give enforcement the tools to do their jobs, whatever that is, if it's no parking or overnight parking. There's no sense making a law if we don't have the enforcement, so.
But we have the enforcement. That's only at the 48-hour rule, so
Yeah, but
that's
if
not
they move
effective
it-
then.
Yeah.
they can move it, but
It's changing that we could do that, we could change it to 24 hours, that's gonna have a huge impact on a lot of things. Okay with that, I guess. I don't know,
We don't have to necessarily do that with this one, though. We could get this ball rolling and then come back to that. And add it if you wanted it on the next agenda to be reviewed.
If it's a bylaw, does it have to go to a committee?
I don't,
this isn't installing them
Not-
now, this is
it-
just
like
preparing
if
an
you go
amendment.
no parking, is that a bylaw?
It would,
Or can you just put up a sign?
no, it would be part of, it would be an amendment to the traffic bylaw.
Oh, so you could do it.
Okay, so we could do it right now.
We could do it right now, and I'm not saying that it's not a good idea, I'm just warning council that based on interaction that we've had with the businesses on that street, we can be prepared for some pushback.
So,
You'd almost have to make it both sides of the street.
Why?
Somebody might view it as targeting.
Well,
hmm,
no,
Just drop the drop the-
my side of the street is no parking. The other side of the street you can park.
So what, how are the
I
trucks
didn't-
getting in?
When we come down railway,
Yeah,
and they try to turn out between the one automotive and Price.
yeah,
And then go straight across where the new stop sign's gonna be.
and they are successful doing that, right? And then the new stop sign will help them get across that.
Help them get across, but
Yeah.
the problem is they're having trouble getting around because there's vehicles
They
always.
can't
parked
get
there.
into the
So they
street.
go down either to the next one and come around and zigzag. And
Do we push the curbs back a little bit so they could make those turns
We
then?
got buildings.
It's just the width of the street.
It's not wide enough for parking and having a semi go through and meeting another vehicle. There's no two-way traffic when the parking's there. That's what you're
Maybe the
saying.
answer is a one-way street. That
You
takes a
still
lot,
have parking.
but then you'd have an angle on the one way. Or did that open up the street a bit more?
But the trucks gotta get out
That'd be
too,
worse.
so like they're gonna be going both ways on that.
Yeah.
Street, so.
depending on where they're fixing the tires, it could go one way or the other.
Yeah.
Just to, again, the last council, I brought no left turns on either, and that's where this all started from. So I was gonna try to get no left turns, so that, it's only right turn only on both sides of that street. And then this, yeah, that should go up.
That still doesn't leave the vehicles
Yeah.
coming off of the railway,
Yeah.
meeting other vehicles.
Doesn't help.
So you chase them down the street, another block, and then they come up and over and around again. So
I still think the safety wise, having it there instead of on Second is valid, but I hear what you're saying when it's too narrow on that road. I just don't know what the solution is there. I still think this is a better place for a stop sign than over on Second.
Well, the way I see it, there's two solutions, either eliminate parking on one side or the other, or give bylaw more stiffer tools to keep that street clean.
I think the bylaw is written that they could do it, it's whether they enforce it or not.
Mhm.
So, simply put.
Well,
Well,
that's sort of, no, that's a big problem for the last three ownerships there.
Yeah.
There's no room for them to park cars, so they park along the street, and they leave them on the street.
Mhm.
And I don't know about moving them 3 feet all the time either, because winter it sure doesn't look like they're moving.
I was just gonna say that, I don't think. that-
How they gonna move?
Yeah, I think what's happening right now is there's a little bit of a leash is being applied because of a potential relocation.
as of, was it a couple of weeks
May
ago?
1st was the date.
They confirmed that they are still moving their vehicles out of there, so that they assure us this won't be an issue going forward.
but that doesn't matter to us, it's just that somebody else is gonna be in there, and the problem is gonna, like Stacy said, the three businesses prior, it's always gonna be a problem.
Too many cars in that, those three businesses have too many cars.
I don't think Chrysler will have an issue, with say an old big parking lot, they can park stuff in.
Uh,
Block that side of the street off, say,
yeah,
I think Craig was just fine. It was a,
but this is more about, do we wanna move the stop sign from Second to Third? Not whether a truck can get up there, I thought that was the main reason, and is it safer having it there where the boulevard meets it? And from when I talked to the business owners there, mostly Tim, and he was very adamant that that needed to happen. So,
no, which needed that.
that we needed to move that stop sign from Second to Third, right, to stop
It
the
is a
traffic.
tough corner though, even
It
with
is.
the trees on the boulevard, if you're trying to go across, sometimes you're
Can't
just
see.
like taking a chance and hope that, cause you can't see, those trees are so thick down that boulevard too. I like your tree.
Leave them
But
alone.
I'm just saying,
Oh,
but it's- I-
don't
I'm not
touch your
against
trees.
them, But I think it's safer, like, I think it's safer than on second, moving it to third. But I agree that that's fixing one problem, but there's still another. So I think we just need to maybe get a little bit more sticky with the bylaw.
Right. And I don't know that, I personally haven't received any concerns. I've received the concerns about the stop sign and the danger crossing. I haven't, other than kind of at this table and the odd time, like we've never had a formal complaint, and maybe bylaw has. I can't speak for them, but I haven't had regarding
Does that mean?
the,
Having them getting onto the street.
I have had with all the vehicles there. I mean, I have heard that it is. I haven't received a formal.
I
It
think
doesn't
you're
mean-
talking to two semi-drivers here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What if we-
Doesn't mean that it's not
Yeah.
an issue, yeah.
We do good snow removal on that street too, don't we?
When there's not vehicles on both sides of it.
Oh, they're there for longer than 48 hours.
But that's the thing, they weren't.
And then we have a bylaw, we have an enforcement problem then.
But that,
Yeah.
that is what I'm,
And-
Simply
that's
put.
my point, with
Yes.
enforcement, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't mean,
So I think we could probably move forward with this the way it is and get that stop sign moved. And then continue looking at either working on our enforcement to make sure we're keeping that street accessible.
Mhm.
And if that doesn't work, then we could pursue going a little further in terms of parking arrangements.
removing a whole side, if you like you said there, that might not be what we
Yeah.
have to do.
but it might not be a bad thing, like you said, even during business hours, which allows,
Mhm.
like, somewhat on even one side, but at least allows the plows too in the winter to actually get and clean that area really good.
Yeah.
Cause if it's 24/7 parking there, it is a narrow street. And there is vehicles left there, cause it is a
Mhm.
mechanic shop.
Yeah.
Right, so you could have vehicles left there all the time in the winter and we get big dumps of snow. It's never getting cleaned and then that road gets even narrower.
Yeah.
So it might be not a bad idea to have parking on one side that is hours, like restricted hours.
The vehicles that are sitting there aren't Chryslers.
Yeah, and I think again, going back to the idea, we can do this today and then add that.
We can bring a recommendation forward.
Yeah.
We can hear from bylaw too again and see.
Yeah,
And I know Bylaw has been working with the business and that it's been a couple of months now that they're waiting for the snow. Where they're going to be
Snow's
moving
gone.
vehicles to, and so we gave them a little bit of grace and we told them absolutely, they promised May 1st. And after that, I've directed bylaw enforcement to start,
That's only 3 more sleeps.
that's right, to start giving the tickets and
That's
they
right.
start being much more vigilant on it. But we did try to work with them as they're trying to come up with a solution for it, and they assure us that they're going to. So,
Can we table this until we find out what's gonna happen with that?
This isn't actually,
Both at the same time?
this isn't actually installing them, this is just preparing an amendment to the traffic bylaw to install. So it's like, not gonna have them out there tomorrow. We still have to bring the traffic bylaw forward and then
That's right.
redo the whole darn bylaw before we could.
yeah,
Well,
Move
then
in.
that's fine. If
Yeah.
that's, if
Yeah.
it's just an amendment, then we're not gonna run out there and stand.
no,
You have us holding it.
They're fast.
Jamie?
And I think we should take a look at a design there too, because it is 2 lanes going into one right at a stop sign.
Mhm.
So vehicles they won't know which vehicle to go first. The ones on the inside lane is gonna have to try to get over to the other side.
The outside
just-
lane should be left only.
Yeah, it should be.
It's exactly like
We'll
down
just
there.
paint lines like this intersection here.
It's
yeah,
exactly.
It's
like
exactly the
this.
same.
We could add that in here to prepare an amendment and design, including design to
Yeah.
that. That way
I
we
just
can get.
wanna do it right.
Yeah,
'Cause it
do
is,
right
it
first
is,
time.
it's a lot more open here than it is down over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
The trees have to go.
And especially with big trucks coming, we'll be taking
I
out
don't
the
love
stop signs on a regular basis.
We gotta see.
yeah.
I don't know. if
Don't-
you
don't worry,
use
Chelsea, we
anything
have to
in
plan
the
2
traffic
anyway.
Study, that's part of the
We're
deal.
gonna have overspend.
It's part of it, yeah.
Guaranteed.
We'll
Okay,
just leave that in your hands.
so I think we can probably go ahead with this one now, so. All right, so this is to prepare the amendment to the traffic bylaw.
Mhm.
All those in favor? And opposed? Okay. So on to the round table. And today we'll start with Joyce.
Well, thank you very much. So it has been a very taxing time, but I did get a chance to go on April 14th over to the Fields new opening. And it's a lot smaller, but they have all the clothes that they had there before, maybe a little smaller and selection. But a lot of people were coming in and really saying, thank you for coming back. So they really enjoyed it. And in talking to them, they had been in the community or working there for 13 years. Her and her son, I believe. I had it on a note, but I forgot it at the office. But so it is a store that is needed in the community, that it fits that right consumer. It's affordable. It's good clothing. And Melford and Tisdale are still closed. And then I heard another Fields in Alberta is closed, so we're fortunate that they're open.
Thank you, Joyce. Lisa.
Well, since we haven't been together since before Easter, I just wanted to start by saying I hope everyone had a wonderful holiday and a chance to slow down and relax and enjoy some time with friends and family and eat a lot. Since our last council meeting, I attended SUMA virtually. And while I do hope to attend next year, I was grateful to be able to take part in the voting and get a better understanding of how that process works. Last week, I attended the Wapiti AGM and regular meeting of the board. And even with the colder weather that we had this year, Wapiti had a strong year. They were open for 62 days and sold over 17,400 lift tickets and had 20,350 total visits counted, including their season passes. They had 88 schools booked trips, bringing over 5,000 students to the hill, and saw record attendance during the February break, and they hosted a few new fundraisers, which has their financials up 16% over last year. So all positive things. And I wanted to take a moment to recognize the staff and management for the work they put in throughout the season. It was a really positive meeting and great to see that it's an important draw for our region. And then on Earth Day last week, I went and did a little garbage cleanup at the Nipawin Dog Park and noticed that some picnic tables had been added. So in my opinion, I think that's a great addition, and I just wanted to thank our Leisure Services Department for making that happen. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Lisa. Kylie.
I also attended the SUMA on Zoom, did the voting, and it was interesting and enjoyed it. And then I went to the Wapiti Library Board AGM meeting on Saturday in PA. That was my very first one. It was interesting. It's 75 years for the Wapiti Regional Library this year, so they're going to be celebrating that. One of the oldest libraries within the Wapiti is actually Arborfield, so that was kind of interesting. And one of the exciting new things that they come out with is that all Wapiti Regional Library, public libraries now are going to have free Wi-Fi provided, effective immediately to them. So just an upgrade. They've been working on it for a long time, just had problems with it, but now it's running. So yeah.
Thank you. Les.
Yeah, it's pretty much just SUMA for me. The one thing that I forgot to mention, we got to go up to the CN Chappelle Road yards, the main container, like everything that goes through Saskatoon on CN is at that yard. I was hoping to maybe get in to see the dispatch, the train dispatch and the rail traffic control, but I guess it's all done out of Edmonton. But we got to go up onto an engine and blow the horn, and they are actually set up extremely well for emergencies. I wasn't aware. They have a fire train, they called it, They've got a train that contains, or that has 2 tankers that holds 9,000 gallons of water. And they've got, in between these 2 tankers, they've got a fire apparatus set up that they can either water the tracks or shoot. It's pretty well done. They used it in Jasper. It was deployed in Jasper when they had their issues there. And they also got a big environmental disaster remediation trailer, I guess, with booms and socks, and if there's ever a spill or anything, they can go out and capture the spill, whatever it may be, if it's in the water or dry stuff that they sprinkle on. So they had 9 of them across the network, we called it. So they're covered, I guess, if there's any problems. So it's kind of a neat thing to see that they're looking after the environment and doing what they can. And yeah, that's, other than that, it's just been busy work and enjoying the nice weather. Cleaning up the yard after the snow reveals everything.
Thank you, Les. Stacy.
Oh, I'm gonna be boring. I've been cleaning up like everyone else and getting ready for the next year, but, we've got, well, other than maybe Corey, we'll get an application for him. That's it. For the park. That's it.
That was it.
So myself, on April 8th, I did attend the NEAT PC AGM. So that we did our financial review and administration report. They brought some new policies that I actually discussed with them when I attended my first meeting there back in January. So now they've got a communication process policy, a delegate member participation policy, and a strategic investment project nomination and communication process. That one's going to be really important coming up here in the next few months. Every year, NEAT PC nominates or brings forward 5 investment projects. So this policy will allow us as a council to put a couple options forward, and it will help outline how we do that. April 12th to 16th, I attended SUMA. April 17th, I did a CTV interview. I'm not sure if anybody got a chance to see it on last week, Monday, I believe, either Monday or Tuesday morning, it was shown on CTV. And on the 17th, I hustled back to town here and we had that quick meeting with Wallace Insights. And that's kind of what I've been up to. I was away with my personal business doing a trade show where I was able to also reach out and get in contact with UFA a little bit as well. So they're a fuel supplier. So that's myself and Jeff.
Not much to report. The same OCP meeting. Sounds like SUMA was a blast, so that's a good time. Yeah, other than that, I've been doing drywall, like I've said 3 times. So. I don't know, that's just an awful time. So
Yeah.
now I'm gonna learn the mud and tape, and I don't know, I'm not that. Hopefully my wife gets better at it. But that's all I have to say.
Missed out on the best prime rib ever.
Oh, I've had some good prime ribs though. And I don't say no to food, as you can see. So,
Yeah, it was wicked, holy.
All right, thanks, everybody. All right. That the regular council meeting of April 28th, 2025 be closed with Mayor Zacharias in the chair pursuant to section 122A of the Municipalities Act and citing exemptions contained in the Local Authority Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act under section 16, advice from officials at 9:14 p.m. Councilor Fass,